Hello. I have an illness called multiple chemical sensitivity. I say I'm allergic to perfume and chemicals because perfume's made up of chemicals. I've been told that I've created that, which I probably have created that. I don't know why I would create something. I don't understand why I would create something that I didn't know even existed. And if I was going to create an illness, why wouldn't I create something that people recognize? Because a lot of people don't get it. So I just, how do I uncreate this?
Well, first we want to begin by saying that everybody that's experiencing anything created it. So give yourself a break, first of all. Then we want to say to you that as people imply that this is a sort of mental thing, that it's psychosomatic, that it's coming from your mind, and that it doesn't really have any physical reason or basis, we want to say that's true of every single imbalance or illness. So don't let them make you feel weird about it, because it's true of everything. When you go to the faucet, someone might say, where does water come from? And you would accurately say, well, I take my glass and I go to the sink and I turn the knob and I hold the glass under the knob, and that's where water comes from. And we say certainly would be true, but there's a lot more to the story of where water comes from. And so we want to give you the same sort of leeway in a end result that you are living. We want you to understand that there's a lot more to every story than just this place where you are now standing. And we also want you to relax just a little bit and try to see yourself, as we have been trying to demonstrate for all of you here today, that you are, without question, putting your boat in the stream right where you are, and that you are where you are, and where you've been and how long you've been gone or been there or how you got here is really not relevant. The only thing that matters is, where am I in relationship to where I want to be? We are not surprised that you would say that you have a diagnosis that speaks to hypersensitivity, because you have always been hypersensitive. You are hypersensitive to energy too. Have you noticed about yourself that even when you were a teenager and before, that when you walked into a room, you could sort of tell what the attitude of the conversation was? In other words, you knew when people were in alignment with you, and you knew when they were not.
Yes.
And you were born into an environment where not a whole lot of people had time to give you their undivided attention, and so you determined, and accurately so, often when you walked into an environment, that you were not the most welcome sight. Not because you were unwelcome, but because they were just busy about other things and you were sort of a bother. Is this ringing any bells over there? In other words, so in all of that, in that hypersensitivity to energy, it's nice to be sensitive to energy when you know that it means I'm upstream and I want to be downstream. It's nice to be sensitive to it when you have the resources and the memory and the knowledge to know what to do about it. But it's not comfortable to be sensitive to energy when you believe that you have to control the conditions in order to feel better. So we think it's interesting that it would evolve into a diagnosis that says, quite simply, that there are people in your environment all around you who are producing chemical concoctions which they emit into the atmosphere. Something as innocuous as someone wearing a strong perfume, or having some chemicals in their clothing from dry cleaning. Esther walked in the rain the other day in a silk blouse, and she was amazed at the fragrance that emitted from her silk blouse when it got wet. She said, I smell like a bubblegum factory. Something about the chemical that they had dry cleaned her clothing with, when it got wet, it was a really interesting fragrance. And so all of these chemicals that are surrounding you, and with your sensitivity to vibration. Now, we talked earlier a little bit that what you see because you translate vibration into the sight equivalent. And what you hear is you're translating vibration into the sound equivalent. What you smell is translating vibration. what you taste is translating vibration. And so everything is vibrational. And if you could get to the heart of vibration, you would understand why that color looks the way it does, why that sound sounds the way it does, why that light refracts in the way that it does, and why that food tastes the way it does, and why that thing smells the way it does. In other words, it's all vibrationally based. And so now you say, okay, Abraham, I get it. I'm a hypersensitive translator of vibration. And in doing so, I have these different responses. Then you say, which is really what the heart of your question was, but why would I create an uncomfortable bodily condition about something that I don't even know that I'm doing? How could I create something that I don't know that I'm doing? And we say, because attention to a subject sets up a vibration, and when you set up a vibration, that vibration is playing off of another vibration, and that results in the manifestation that you're living. So in the same way that you're able to feel negative emotion and turn a thought more positively, you can, at even more subtle levels, sense a vibration and then reach with your mind for a different vibration, and you can literally sift through the vibration of your time-space reality without the people around you doing anything to change it. Now, did you hear that? We'll go back and say that again, because it was a lot that we said in a very... So here's what we're saying.
Okay.
There is a tendency to believe that here I am, standing in the smack dab in the middle of my life, and that I'm having responses to life. Our friend earlier is having responses to her 18-year-old daughter. Our friend is having response to his house not selling. In other words, there are conditions that are happening, and you are observing the conditions, and you're having vibrational responses to those conditions. And in those cases, you can see them as conscious things that you are observing. It's like a reality that I am observing. So you sort of get that. And you can even get how you can observe things and then decide to take a different slant on them, and by using the power of your mind, turn your attention in a different way so that the condition that you've been observing doesn't take you on such a wild and raucous ride. In other words, isn't that what you're getting from this discussion here today? That you have the power to see it as an upstream idea or a downstream idea, and depending upon which way you decide to make it, you will benefit or not, depending upon the direction of your thought. So now what we're suggesting to you is that in less obvious ways, there are thoughts that you think that are detrimental to your physical well-being, and thoughts that you think that are beneficial to your well-being, that you are somehow translating in terms of the way chemicals are responding to you. But the chemicals are just the path of least resistance in the way they're showing up. It really is the thought that poisons, not the chemical. And that's why they're saying to you that it's sort of something that you're creating rather than, and that's why everybody is not having the same experience. Now, give yourself a break in this and acknowledge that the dog hears things that I don't hear. And that everybody is emitting vibrations, and that the universe is responding to their vibrations. And then say to yourself, now this is something that we think is just wonderful. We were talking earlier about post-manifestational awareness, how what I think and therefore what I feel and what manifests is always a vibrational match. There are no exceptions to that. So once something is manifested, you can kind of figure out what the vibration was that you had going on, because the manifestation sort of points it out. So then we say, but isn't it nice to have awareness in advance so that you can turn your thoughts into a more productive or beneficial way, so that what manifests is more pleasing? And so then you say, here I am in this situation where I've got this manifestation that is occurring. And we say, we have long been saying, if you've got some negative emotion going on, which means resistance in your vibration, which means you got your stream moving fast and for some reason you're not letting yourself go with it, don't worry, you'll feel negative emotion. And if you don't recognize that your stream's moving in one direction and that you're not letting yourself go with it, don't worry, it will get bigger. And if you still don't notice it and do something about trying to get downstream, don't worry, it will get bigger. And if you still don't notice it and do something about it, don't worry, it will get bigger, because everything in this leading edge universe is becoming more and more exaggerated. And so all that's happened to you is you are now having a manifestational response to vibration that is out of whack, and now it's got your attention. So, but now what you're thinking the result is, you see, what's causing you concern is, what you're saying is, well, I have a sensitivity to chemicals that I can't even see. And it isn't until I come into contact with them that I have a detrimental response. And we say, oh, but doesn't that pretty much sound like what everybody's trying to tell us? Oh, Abraham, I didn't have that negative thought until things went really wrong. And that would be like Jerry and Esther saying to us, we didn't have negative thoughts about our drive shaft disconnect not connecting until it didn't connect. And we say, oh, you're not going to get away with that with us. In other words, we know that the drive shaft disconnect isn't working because of things that have been going on in your vibration. It's not the other way around. Everything that manifests is vibrationally based, you see.
It's true.
So you don't have to figure out what chemicals you're allergic to. You don't have to figure that out. You have to figure out what thoughts you're allergic to. And we'll say to you, you can tell every time. They don't feel good when you think them. They're thoughts like, I'm not good enough. They're thoughts like, I'm not smart enough. They're thoughts like, I should have done something different. They're thoughts like, oh, I'm wasting my life. They're thoughts like, I don't know what to do. They're thoughts like, oh, that one's doing better than me. They're thoughts like, I should be doing better. They're thoughts like, oh, I've lived so much life and I haven't figured it out. They're poison thoughts.
Or projecting it. Like when I came here, for instance, I wouldn't allow myself to think, well, the room will be full of perfume and I won't be able to stay, because that's happened. Or when I stayed when I got a room at the hotel, because sometimes they put a lot of scents in the room, I didn't allow myself to think about that, and everything worked out fine. You know, I am here.
You're here and you're surrounded by chemicals.
Exactly.
You're here and you're surrounded by all the stuff that often can set you off, but you've been here focused in an environment that has mostly carried you downstream. And so you have more than usual been in alignment with who you are.
Yes.
And in alignment, you're not out of whack, you're in alignment, and so you're not having those same symptoms, even though the chemicals that you've been giving the credit for have been present around you.
Yes.
It isn't about them, it's about thought and vibration.
Yes. Thank you.